Hello and welcome to today's show. Hi, Reaper, first one to join us. We are kind of waiting on Director Arketer to realize that I'm live. I do want to put this out there that I live in the Eastern Standard Time Zone, and we changed our time 1 hour the other day, so some places don't follow suit at the same time. I think they should do away with daylight savings time, but that's a topic for another day. How is everybody out in the crowd today? How is everybody doing? What's going on? And all that other bullshit that should and would be said. Now that that's out of the way, let's see. Let's pull Arketer off for a little while we wait for him. There we go. That's better. Alright. And while we're waiting for him, why do I sound like I'm echoing? Nope. All good. Everything's going through. Alright. There's Sasuke. How you doing today? Alright. So let's get a game board up there, shall we?
Welcome to the Great Debate.
Alright. Enough of that. Now, here we are on the board, and as you guys all know, there are 18 topics behind every topic. There is more snow. No, not more snow, Sasuke. Yeah, we got a couple inches where I am, but damn, snow is just, it's run its course. It's time to move on for the year. Alright. So, behind each of these 18 topics is a statement or a question, and hopefully I pressed save last night when I put the new questions in. Well, we'll find out real soon, won't we? Alright. What do we got going? We've only got a couple people in here today. I assume that's partly because of the daylight savings time thing, partly because the Kumite is going nuts, apparently. Andy Worski is trademarking liberalist. So our director will be showing up here in just a moment. I just got word. Sasuke picked school. She knows what's going on in this game. Some places run year-round school versus a 10-month program with 2 months of summer vacation. Which is better? Alright, we have... Oh, there he is. Let's get him back on the board. There's the Arketer. And he had a power supply issue, or I would have gone through a little bit of extra effort to put the Arketer up on the screen so you can see his cool background. But when he gets that back, we'll put it up there. How are we doing today?
Beside of this whole slight schedule error on my part, quite well, thank you. Again, terribly sorry about that. Not too late, I hope.
You know what? It was, it's partially me because I was just inadvertently made aware of it, having only been doing YouTube for a year and streaming for a few months. I got my time zones in order, and that's how I posted them. And then I was listening to another stream that was off schedule to me, and I realized that after somebody had stated, not all areas are in the same daylight savings time loop, so that's to be considered in the future. I'm going to look into that.
Okay, well, I'm terribly sorry about that. I could have been paying close attention to the possibility myself. Anyhow, yes, all's well, and I should hopefully have everything back up and running soon. Apparently, I didn't make quite the mess I thought I did. It just looked bad. Which, by the way, means that I should be back up and running Saturday. I can't confirm that yet, but soon.
We look forward to it. I did have somebody question about you today. He may show up in the chat. I want to say it was Tim Tarbox was asking if you had a name previous to Director Arketer, something that started with an A.
Oh
Something
dear, that
Arketer.
again. Yes, when I first launched my so-called YouTube celebrity career, by me, I'm the one who calls it that. As it happens, I named my channel alias Arketer. And that was a horrible, horrible mistake because from henceforth everyone assumed my name was in fact alias.
By Sasuke. Yes, I was questioned about it earlier when I did. I was in a chat and I was like, I got Arketer on later. Come check out the show. And somebody's like, oh, is that Arketis or something like Arketer or something? I forget what the name he used was, but he may pop in to say hello. Not to divert because perspective and whatnot is always interesting, but the timer is running down on this topic, and Sasuke pumped in with a 10 months is better before she had to run. The current question is, some places run year-round school versus a 10-month program with 2 months of summer vacation. Which is better?
I'm going to come down, and this might be an odd choice for me personally, in favor of the summer vacation.
Really?
Because people come up with some interesting things to do over summer vacation.
Oh, absolutely. This one comes semi-important if you do have children in school. I forget what the exact term is, but there's a grace period for about a month when they get back to school where children basically spend the first couple of weeks to a month going back over what they've already done the year previous to refresh their minds. That 2-year gap causes a delay in their ability to catch back up on their work, and some areas have instituted like a shorter school day with a 12-month program, but they get more breaks throughout the program, but they're shorter breaks than a 2-month summer vacation, so that the students don't have to relearn material. It gets to stay fresh in their mind consistently.
That's a solid argument. Okay, I perhaps am poorly educated on the topic of the
No,
better way to
absolutely.
run a
This is
high
all
school.
about
But
perspective. Honestly, looking at it, I would love to have my 2 months of summer vacation, but when you look back at it, I'm assuming you also had, June and or part of June, all of July, all of August, and a couple days of September off for vacation yourself, didn't you?
I got to enjoy the 2 months off. I think I had a week in Christmas
Yeah.
around.
The thought process being, it's great when you're like 15, 16, 17 and you go out and get one of those summer jobs, pick up an income, do fun things, whatever it is in your area for who you are. But at the same time, when you graduate high school and you start going to college, there isn't as much of a break in college. Then when you get done with college, or if you skip college and go to work, there's no breaks. You get maybe a week off after you've put a year or two in, but that's it. So
Oh, yes, that's a relatively new development. Some places they can still give you at least a month off a year. America has kind of forgotten the importance of vacations in
yeah,
general.
yeah, work your ass off until you're old enough to die, and then die. That's America now. But it almost seems like both programs have their benefits and their disabilities. The 10-month program would be most people's personal leisureful pleasure. However, when you think about the work put in and everything, honestly, it would be better for educational purposes to run a 12-month schooling program.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree in that better context.
Doesn't mean
Especially
I agree
studies
that's what
do
they
show
should
that,
do.
well, if 2 months is resulting in lost progress, as in there's enough time for everything in memory to get erased, then that's a waste.
All right,
So I can
think about
see,
it this way.
yeah, but if you're going to do that, you absolutely do need to provide smaller breaks throughout, even if they're shorter.
Right. think about it this way. Let's say you learned how to do something. Let's say you learned how to dismantle and reassemble a circuit board, and you get taught how to do it. You move through it. You get through it once, and then you get a long break, and then you're brought back in, and you're told to put that circuit board together exactly as quick as you did it before the break, the same way you were taught how, and you're going to lose part of that. And that's what it is they're constantly being taught new stuff, and then they're tested on it. They're given a long break. They come back, they do a quick test to find out what they remember, and everybody will test a little lower than they did before the break, because that break causes them to be able to, or causes them to lose that quickness, the readiness of the information in their mind.
I think in this case, they had the right idea to study this and need a bit more studying to find out exactly how much a break can be given without losing the knowledge.
Right.
And then making sure they get as much of the break as they can without resulting in lost effort.
Right, and I'm all for the breaks. Children don't need to be put on school regimens that, socialist economy, make it feel like they were raised in a military construct or anything. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying they do have almost the same amount of time off, but a 12-month program breaks it up farther. So they get, I think, they don't go as many hours in the day either. And they get breaks around all holidays, and I think they get 2 or 3 weeks in the summertime. I forget how it all works, and different programs run a little different.
Well, it definitely has potential.
All right. Sometimes
Now,
I come
whether or
up
not-
with some good ones.
Oh, yes, it all depends in context of how it gets applied in practice, because there's so many things that get fucked up in the details.
Yeah.
Pardon my language. I would like to actually lobby for toys for the next topic, if you don't mind.
Toys. Challenging the mind isn't usually the main goal of a toy. Puzzles challenge the mind, but can puzzles be fun and relaxing leisure activity? So it's a game or a toy, right?
Yes.
So puzzles are a toy.
Well, I suppose they lean more towards a game than a toy, but ultimately they're a physical thing you play with in some capacity, so toy would seem to be the general idea.
I just had a thought in my head and lost. It's gone off to the nether. Alright, so here we go. I found it again. When most debate shows have a conversation like this and they go over an item, they call something like this question the slippery slope fallacy. So you're leading me into saying something else fits into this category, and that's how I purposefully worded this question.
Aha.
Puzzles.
I've activated your trap question.
Yeah. Sometimes I try to do this, especially on the lower categories, to kind of force a point of view or a thought. And the force is something, and I've done this on this category specifically before, is something that can be leisure, a toy. Puzzle games are fun. Tetris would be a puzzle game, but then that would be a game, and we decided games were a category between toys, also because they're leisure. So where would puzzles fall?
Well, if you can have a puzzle game, then why can't you have a puzzle toy?
Right. And the way I see it is some things incite brain activity, and a puzzle will force you to think about what it is. All right, so you can't just pull it out of the box and unroll it and it's going to be what you expect it. You have to find the pieces you're looking for to put it together. All the pieces are supplied, so it's up to you to construct it based on a preset notion. So it's like putting a bookshelf or something together. It's a project, but it forces your mind to do specific activities that make it easier for you to process things in your head. That's the best way I think I can put it.
So are Legos toys or puzzles?
See, that's where I was going with something like this. Is then can you consider other things that force your mind to think? Can you pull them back out of the toy category and say, no, this is a teaching utensil? Welcome, Mole. How we doing today? That's why I was saying this sort of leans into a slippery slope. So if you call a puzzle a toy and say it's just for fun and leisure, set it aside, okay, cool. Then you go back into the everyday life, work, and necessity versus relaxation, fun, and leisure. So then anything you do, anything you opt to do that's not a necessity would then be leisure. So then Legos would be an educational leisure activity like a puzzle. It's really hard to break this up. And when I think about topics, this is why I do this show. When I think about things, I overcomplicate them in my head and try to make them still make sense.
Yes, I actually see exactly how this works, and it's a common human thing to do. It's tempting to classify everything, but nothing usually fits firmly into one given category when any given thing can be incredibly complex. Like Legos could be puzzles, or they could be toys, or they could be both.
Absolutely. It really
They could be
depends
used
on the person's perspective and how
and the
they're
intended
looking at
use.
it. Right.
You can also use Legos to teach. If you're using them to teach, then they're an educational tool. It's not so much it's not locked in. Almost nothing is just locked in. Anything can be anything depending on what you use it for. It just might not be that good or as good as other items traditionally used for that. You can use a hammer to bash in someone's head, or you can use it to hammer in a nail. It's a weapon in one case and a tool in the other,
Right.
with the weapon being just a tool to kill someone in that case. Everything is context sensitive, in short.
Right. And that, to reiterate, that's the whole point of my show here. The whole point is to take something that might seem benign, or to take something that everybody's talking about, and look at it in a way that you're not looking at it. Let's take puzzles. There's not a whole lot to be said about puzzles, but are they an educational tool or a toy? All of a sudden, now there's a conversation to be had, because some people are going to say, no, it's an educational tool because a puzzle makes your brain think. And then you say, no, it's a toy because it's something you do for fun and leisure. Both are true. They're true to the perspective of the person making the statement. And in a debate, in my head, a debate is not two people arguing their truths of their perspective. It's two people offering their perspective to find out where the middle ground is.
Looking at something from different angles and comparing observations.
Yeah. That's what I like to do. That's why I think I'm good at this. I think that's why people like me doing this, is because this is how I think about things.
Also, more people should think about things. There is too much trying to dictate an objective truth. While objective truths do exist, they don't require dictation.
There you go. I like that. Dictation of objective truth. I don't want people to listen to what others have dictated to be true. I want people to take what they've heard, express that, and let others hear how they hear things. That'll give perspective to how they see the continuance of the conversations. All right. I'm either getting
Indeed.
boring or everybody's in a gambling mood.
I don't think it being boring. This is probably the point where they're going, oh, stop.
Next topic, please.
Look at the internet intellectuals being all smarty pants, thinking they know what they're talking about. Well, I know better.
Not a clue what I'm talking about. I have a semi-clue of what I read, and I go from there.
If everyone's quite honest with themselves, they will find that they don't know what they're talking about in most cases.
Yeah. Yeah. And I openly come right out here and say I don't know what I'm talking about. If somebody knows better than me, whether they be my guest or in my chat or happen to listen and send me a message later, please tell me why you know better than me. I will look into it. If you're right, I will accept that you're right, and I will amend how I see things. That's the
That's
point
ideally
of the
how it
show.
should go. And in any case, you should be aware that anything you're saying is at best an educated guess.
Anything I'm saying is, at best, whatever I've learned, which in most cases is very minimal.
Or whatever you think you've learned.
I forgot
There's
how
no
to spell
in.
Berenstein. Stein.
Yes, this is exactly how everyone got confused as to whether or not the Super Collider had somehow rewritten history. Oh, the Mandela effect is fascinating and really funny, but boils down to people completely unwilling to accept the possibility that maybe they remembered something wrong in the exact same way other people have remembered something wrong.
Correct. That's why machines will rule the world.
Well, what I find most baffling about the Mandela effect is let's pretend for a second that it's true. That because some nerds were smashing molecules in a super collider somewhere in France, for example, it caused a rewriting of all of history to where yellow is now called glurb. But you're the only person who remembers that glurb was called yellow. What does it matter?
See, but hold on, because we're diverting again, which is sort of okay. But doesn't the Mandela effect also study the percentage of remembrance of the specific item? So if 1,000 people are studied and 100 of them remember yellow and 900 of them don't remember yellow, then it's a 10% Mandela effect. The Mandela effect being the remembrance of an item that didn't exist. It gets confusing.
Yes, well, it sure to be, but the hypothetical is that if all of reality has shifted to where you're the only person who remembers that, oh, say last Wednesday, yellow was actually glurb, and now it's called yellow, what would it matter? Objective reality has shifted entirely just to make this one memory incorrect.
Yeah. The
That's
weirdness
a sort of thing where you just go. That's probably one of the conditions we should probably just let it go.
Yeah. The blur between imagination and reality, people don't quite realize. However, at the same time, the reason why it works is because imagination perceives that we have already designed a way in the future to travel in the past, and the things that we do now are the intermittent parts that we're correcting as time proceeds. So in order, theoretically, for you not to be affected, you would have to be behind some sort of specifically modulated energy field that would prohibit you from being affected by the changes during the time the changes are happening. But because you live your life, you can't live your entire life behind a modulation field from birth to death. Therefore, you will always be affected. Therefore, none of this makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
We need another
Although
topic.
you can see why it's tempting. I know what a special snowflake you must be to be the only person who remembers it how it really was.
Yeah.
Reality is not based on individual perspective, but there is an awful lot that your individual perspective influences, at least in regards to you personally. To comment on Jinx.
Welcome, Jinx. I'm just noticing him as you were reading his comment.
Yes.
Yep, we are off on a slight tangent from toys.
Yes, I derailed the hell out of this.
We are talking about the Mandela effect because of puzzles in the toy category. Thank you very much. This is how conversations go.
How about we take a shot at mainstream media?
Mainstream media? I don't think anyone's gotten that in a couple of days. Let's take a look. Why is mainstream media not considering all local violence as domestic terrorism?
This is a very good question, and the answer is simple. It's not useful for them.
Why
if it
not?
were useful for them... well, if they want to highlight certain cases, the ones that really tug at the heartstrings whenever they're trying to push an agenda of some sort. Otherwise, it's just not considered warranted. Plus, a lot of local violence isn't really motivated by a desire to cause terror on a large scale. And you have a bunch of people who are knocking over liquor stores and so on. When someone robs a liquor store, they're not doing this because this will totally scare everyone into converting to Islam.
Okay.
Or knocking over this liquor store isn't going to really do much more than, well, probably really piss off the owner for one. Something they
Right.
weren't shot. And even if they were shot, they'd probably wouldn't be too happy about it. So I think the assumption stands. Anyhow,
It seems, though, the reason behind this questioning is obviously the recent Parkland, Florida shooting. And
that.
they did not classify it as domestic terrorism. But when you watch the news coverage, it almost seemed like all of the reporters on almost every station were having that word on the tip of their tongue, but doing everything they could not to say domestic terrorism. Does it almost seem that way? Like they describe it like it is, they treat it like it is, and they act like it is domestic terrorism, but the words never come out.
Yes, well, that part I think I can explain primarily because they want to call it by every name they can think of, but not that one. That one's reserved.
Why? Honestly, I think, and this is what they're after too, don't get me wrong. This is like a double sided question. They're not calling it domestic terrorism, but they're treating it and acting like it is, and it kind of is. It is students going into schools and shooting them up. Granted, this student was no longer a student, but he was still a kid. Granted, I'm older, my perspective. A kid
Mm-hmm.
going into a school, shooting up a school. That scares other kids and other schools to make a change. It has caused schools across the country to make changes to how they operate, how they run, the cost of operation, the necessary employees to be in the school. It has caused change, and therefore, it is a streak of domestic terrorism.
But it's terrorism that's causing changes that they want.
Not in all cases.
Which, well, maybe not in all cases, but a lot of the, well, uniformly aligned media sources. Although that does baffle me because, strictly speaking, that shooting shouldn't have happened if anyone in the chain of command had been doing their job properly.
Yes, and there's still more coming out. But again,
Oh,
Parkland,
yeah.
Florida, just being the most recent of many such attacks that we've had. Obviously,
You say that, hold on, but if you look, they're looking into the stats on that, and are you aware that shootings have actually gone down in
yes,
recent years?
yes,
It's not an epidemic, it's not exploding, it's not increasing, it's going down, but they've still got everyone scared out of their minds about stopping the next horrible, certain to happen massive shooting.
right. Now, I understand it has gone down, and the reason I understand it has gone down, and I'll say this point out, is I was proven wrong. I found a Twitter tweet. I had made a comment about it in a chat as I was reading it, and then was proceeded to be proved wrong in the chat and as I was reading it. So felt like a bit of an idiot saying there was 18 school shootings so far this year because I heard a senator or a congressman say it in front of the House, and then turn around and start reading the article and find out that only like 3 of them have actually been school shootings that have injured multiple children, and that the still 3 this year, hell of a number, that's still too many, and that it has gone slowly down over the past few years, but it still is a problem, and it still is causing more reaction than they originally thought it would take to curtail this.
This is straight up manipulation.
Yeah.
I don't, I can't say for certain the senator wasn't just that stupid, but certainly there are a lot of people who know better, and that's not what they're reporting.
No. But just keep that on your minds, guys. When you watch news reports of things that are happening, listen to the words and the terms they use to describe the events, and compare them to other events and listen to how they describe them. And you'll see that it's almost like they put the same emphasis, but are very, very careful about how they word it. Obviously, because it's a school, it's children. People don't want to say the wrong thing at the wrong time, and obviously get the capitalist whiplash of what's going to happen. But
I'm not sure that's what they're concerned about, but still, noted.
Oh,
They are very careful about their phrasing.
Yeah.
Well, it's more along the lines if there's a narrative to uphold.
Right.
They do love their narratives these days.
All right. How are we doing in the chat? WWE. Ooh, going to watch some wrestling Tuesday night. I don't watch wrestling, so have fun, enjoy, yell, scream. Don't get any blood on you. 18. Yes, that's right. Nope. It was 8 shooting incidents, 3 multiple shootings, 18 gun-related incidents. 2 of them, I want to say, on the list for this year did not even happen on school grounds. They happened down the road from the school, but still in what's termed as school zone. So that's how that got on my list. Yes,
I'm
3
just incredibly
multiple.
annoyed that there's been so much cultivated outrage being directed against the NRA, and it seems as if only the individuals are discussing the complete failure of the deputies, the sheriff. Oh, did you hear? The deputies are
Yes.
actually ordered not to go inside because they can only go inside if they had body cams on.
Yes, I
I'm
heard
sorry,
about that.
no
You
one-
want to hear what the next one was?
Oh, please.
2 off-duty SWAT members were in the area and heard the call. They showed up to the school to respond to the shooting and were subsequently, I believe, fired for showing up without responding to a specific call for their need.
Okay, that goes beyond incompetence.
You're talking, fuck you. You have cops that have willingly trained, worked, and put their lives on the line, and they show up to an incident. Those are the cops that citizens want on the beat, and they're the ones you fire. But the cops that waited outside the fucking school because they didn't have cameras, they're okay. They're safe because they couldn't do anything without a camera.
This is straight up banality of evil garbage right here. This is. There's no way this isn't even darker than we're being told at this point.
Okay, there's probably a couple of light points we're not being told because of the bad stuff. You got to remember, again, I overthink things. There's probably something on the good side we're not hearing, and there's probably more on the bad side that we still haven't heard yet. But so far, that's 2 officers from the SWAT team in the local area fired for showing up when SWAT wasn't called. Okay, so there's 2 things. Then you have 2 officers that did not enter the school because they didn't have body cameras on. Okay, there's another thing. And then you have the on-grounds officer that didn't promptly respond to the shooting. So you have 5 officers that we know of involved. 2 of them were fired for doing what they should have done, even though you didn't tell them. 2 of them are okay for doing what you told them, even though it's not what they should have done. And one of them's up in the air because we don't know if he was, or should have been where he was.
Yeah, no. I'm
Okay.
sorry, that's implausible.
And I think we lost a couple people talking about this, but that's all right. It's a little heated because I do have kids and they're in school.
Oh, there's so much to be angry about, but maybe we should move on to a happier topic.
Happy? Oh, I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know. Rampant child murder is pretty dark. That should be a low bar to clear.
Yeah.
Virtual reality.
Virtual reality. A new concept of VR use could be training and measurable operation hours before receiving licensing to operate vehicles and equipment.
This is often done already when it comes to pilots.
It is.
I'm not
However,
sure if it will apply to other things, however.
all right, for the most part, pilots who do VR training, there's cockpits that are hooked onto hydraulic lifts and they simulate actual movements. The windows are really screens, it's digital, it's not perfect, but it gets them the training. Okay, if this happens, this is how you respond. If this happens, this is how you respond. It gives you time to work out the situations in real time without real consequences. So that's the type of VR type training that they've been doing. And you look at the new availability of VR and think about all the incidents and accidents that we have on the roads in most countries. Maybe Unwanted Reaper can tell me because he's looked into it a little bit, but in some countries, getting your license actually requires a great deal of work because of the low necessity or the areas. I know one country takes you several months to get your license because you have to drive during the winter for so many hours so that you have training to drive in the snow. And the reason that the rules are so strict is to not put unsafe drivers on the road. What if we did something like that where you had to serve so many hours in a virtual reality simulator? They could be logged or tracked wherever, but you had to go through training before you could be allowed to drive a car.
That seems silly.
You think?
Well, if just to drive a car, how many people haven't been able to drive on, say, a parking lot? Why would you need to simulate all of that when you could give someone the experience of driving in a safe environment as it is? If something goes wrong in a plane, you crash it, that's a whole bunch of dead people and a massive loss of revenue and equipment, huge value loss. A car in a parking lot, not so much.
Right. No, I agree. I agree. Just throwing this out there. Apparently, there's around 3,000 plus deaths a day that are vehicular. So, without looking at that study, let's say a small portion of them could be eliminated by giving more structured learning education. So, when I was taught how to drive, it was at the convenience of my mom. My mom let me drive whenever we were in the car together and we weren't in an area that she felt I wasn't able to drive in yet. And I learned pretty quick. And when you go in and fill out the questions, it's, have you driven for so many hours real time? And it's like, well, yeah, click the check mark. But I had only driven for half of what they recommended. And I still went in and, missed two questions, missed one question. No, two questions, I think. Passed the test and got my license. Now, if it were stricter, would I be a better driver?
I have my doubts on that point. You're going to make mistakes over a period of time anyway. No one becomes a master overnight, or if some studies are correct, in under 10 years. I know that when I first started driving, I had my share of accidents.
I've been in several ditches. I've had a couple actual accidents. I had a bumper tap. I've had my share, which is why
I don't think
say
a few weeks in a simulator, a few weeks straight even, would have prevented most of those.
not even that. But let's say your local DMV says you need 1,000 hours of driving time before you can drive a car. And then you need 500 hours of actual driving time. That would make the license process a little bit harder, yes. But after you get done with 1,500 hours of mandated driving experience before you're allowed to drive on your own, you would be more experienced than after 100 hours of driving with somebody in the car. It's a lot more requirement, but would that extra requirement also save lives on the road if we have better drivers? If we have people that are trained how to react to different situations before they're put on the road? Simulations can account for accidents or spinouts that you might never encounter until it's too late. So you know what I mean?
No,
There's both sides.
I'm picturing
here.
very thorough first accidents, you know, simulate getting out of the car, yelling at the other driver, streaming insurance information, dealing with the
after your
insults against your
simulated
mother.
accident, your screen will pop up with a message that says, please make sure you take pictures and record license and registration information of all the drivers.
All while some other driver is standing over your shoulder cursing you out.
Well, VR would be a start and great for reaction to accidents, but at the same time, you need some real driving hours. I'm not saying to replace the real driving hours. I'm saying to be prerequisite to real-time driving hours.
How do you propose to give people enough time in these simulators? You're gonna have to basically launch an entire business providing it, or
You would. There would have to be
do it on-
businesses and agencies or things like that to provide it, or you would be able to like rent or do something. I'm not sure. I didn't think out the structure. This isn't a concept I'm working on. However, at the same time, let me offer this. When I was 15, heading up to my 16th birthday, trying to get my permit, I had Gran Turismo with steering wheels and pedals.
Yeah, if we can do that again.
It was zero good to me.
This is one of the public services that arcades could provide.
There you go.
We'll bring back giant mecha sims, and then we have here safe driver sims.
Yeah, and it would have to, don't get me wrong, it would have to log the hours that you yourself spent in there, so you would have to hit a certain number of hours driving. Computer would tally it up and everything. You'd have to get a number of hours, so you couldn't fudge this for your license.
I presume it would have to keep track of whether you drove well or not, though, wouldn't it? That's a shame. You get 500 hours of just demolition derbying it on a simulated highway.
That would be fun. But
technically, it's hours driven.
Yeah, it is. But you know what I mean, though? This would offer another level of safety at a huge expense, a huge problem, a huge toll, unnecessarily in most places, but it would offer safety.
In about another 50 years or so, there's no guarantee we'll actually be doing any of our own driving anymore.
There's also that. Why do we need to license as many drivers as we're licensing when more vehicles are going automated? When less people are driving, why do we need to be assigning so many licenses?
I would consider it a matter of personal responsibility in my case. Even if my car drove itself,
you would still need a license to own a vehicle that drove itself. If you didn't own the vehicle and it drove you, you wouldn't need to be licensed to operate it because you're not operating it. But if you owned it, you'd need a license to operate it.
If I'm regularly traveling in a vehicle, I'm going to want to know how to operate it manually, just in the situation that something goes wrong, the AI loses its shit, it melts down, a virus attacks, an EMP goes off, whatever the case is. I want to know how to stop it or take over as I need to.
Absolutely. Me too.
Let's see.
That was Demolition Man, right? Where the wheel folded up and went into the dash, and then you could go manual and it popped out. And
I think, was that in iRobot as well?
Was it? Maybe it was.
I know iRobot had a big deal about driving cars, yes.
Yes, it was. It popped out of the dash. But the one in Demolition Man just stayed a little round nub on the console. It was funny looking. Next topic.
Unwanted Reaper is correct. However, in dangerous situations, 9 times out of 10, the AI is going to do a better job. Then again, in the event of an EMP virus or Russian cyber hacking, You probably would want to know how to drive it.
The Russian bots
Anyway.
took my car over.
Isn't it amazing? I hope the Russians one day share their tricks as to how they somehow, again, hacked the brains of our incompetent leadership.
No, all
It's
they
a...
did was make some tweets and get accused of shit they didn't do.
Yes,
Welcome
that's
back,
correct.
Sasuke. How did it go?
I hope whatever it was went well. In the meantime, my title will be for controversy.
Controversy. I just like saying it like a vampire. Controversy. Don't know why. People don't believe they should suffer for the sins of our fathers, but often white and men are blamed for historical events, and the burden falls on people today to make up for something they were not directly involved in.
I can give you a peak example of this. There's a Twitter account called People of Finland. It's dedicated, in theory, to, well, people of Finland. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar about Finland, but Finland is a tiny fly speck of a country that has not been a persecutor of any given war, and they haven't had any slave trade. But nevertheless, until quite recently, the curator of People of Finland was the one black Finnish person in the country. Their account was Afro-European Blues, if I recall correctly, and they turned the Twitter account into nothing but another account of the rare occasions of black people in Finland in history, including suggestions that Finland was somehow complicit in the slave trade in America because some Finns, who at the time were technically sort of Swedes, were in America, ergo they were probably traitors.
Okay. I wrote these questions last night, yesterday afternoon, and then I proceeded to pay attention to other shit, as I normally do, because my mind has to spool up for the next set of questions. I gotta pay attention to a whole bunch of crap that makes no sense to me or has nothing to do with me, and then National Geographic comes across. Did you hear about National Geographic?
Sorry, what has National Geographic done now?
Okay, so apparently they recently released a statement stating that they have been sexist and racist in their publications by openly presenting tribes and, well, obviously when they say tribes, they mean the ones with the women's tits hanging out and the men covered in the loincloths and then, big piercings through the nose and all the other shit.
Mm-hmm.
They've been racist and sexist all of this time, and they're apologizing for it. And they're handing out money to all these people they harm. It's so terrible. I feel so bad. I don't know what to do. It's crap.
Yes, truly.
There is no reason. Don't anybody that listens to this now or in the future, don't take this the wrong way. I was born in the 80s. I wasn't able to make decisions until roughly 18 years old. And at 18, I started making decisions that I wanted to make based on my life. No decisions that I've made affected any, black person or any white, Mexican, or other persons being traded, bought, sold, or put into slavery. None of my decisions had any effect on anything that happened in the past, and it never will. Therefore, there is nothing I can do to make up for something that I had no part in.
And it is inescapably racist to say that just because someone has the same skin color as someone else, who also maybe say died several decades ago, that they are accountable for the sins of that person who just happened to have the same color skin.
Right. And it gets me sometimes. I sit back in the corner because I'm a centrist, mostly a centrist. On most things, I like to sit in the middle and just see what the conversation is. And then you accuse all white people, or all men, or all of this group that I've happened to barely fall into, or wholly fall into in certain cases. I take a little offense to this because I had nothing to do with it.
Well, there's no reason you should be offended. There's a much better grounding in reality than what they've got going in this case. Like, if they're going to hold someone accountable for the crimes of their ancestors, then really, if they're going to throw those stones, then certainly we should have an accounting of their ancestry and what horrible things their ancestors did. And if they came from Africa as of late, it would seem that they shouldn't necessarily assume that they're on the lighter end of the scale.
Yeah. Also, this has come up previously, and I don't have statistics, but for slavery, I hope a lot of people know that it was their own people that sold them into slavery. Warring tribes would capture other tribes and sell the tribe into slavery and take what they wanted. That's how the world operated. The most powerful ones had what they could hold in their power. Because if your power stretched too far and you didn't have enough power over that amount of land, you lost that part of the land because you couldn't hold it. That's history, fighting back and forth over land. We just in the last few hundred years have started to come to senses and tried to be... What's a good word for what we're trying to be? You can't say people because people have always done different shit. Can't say new because shit's new when it begins. What is it that we're in?
How is it whenever the topic of slavery comes up, it's primarily in relation to countries that don't have it anymore?
Yeah.
Because slavery still exists. It just doesn't exist in the trendy countries.
Or people aren't looking at it right, and people aren't slaves anymore. You're indentured servants to your government, to yourself, to your family. You cannot live without having to serve somebody something to get what you need. You're an indentured servant. If you have a credit card, you're an indentured servant. If you owe a bill, reoccurring or not, you're an indentured servant. You owe money constantly. Therefore, you are an indentured servant. That was the whole term of indentured servitude. It was you held an amount of money somebody owed to you over their head. And if they could ever pay that amount off, they were free. But if you're consistently paying, you're never paid off. You're never free.
Yes. Nothing ever really worked quite as smoothly as they like to say it did. Nothing, indentured servitude or slavery, none of it was good. But in any case, I really like how we've come past those things for the most part. While certainly some jobs don't seem a whole lot better, we've come a long way collectively. This is one of the things I like to remind everyone about. Is that as bad as things are, you have to remember that it wasn't more than a few centuries ago than we were everything we're now pretending still exists.
Dark Sasuke. Damn you, you just fucked my head, Numbskull. Yes, I have credit cards. I'm in an indentured servitude myself. Whoever you owe money owns you. They own a part of you for the term that you owe money to them. Indentured servitude is just a monetary slavery. That's all it is.
One of the reasons why I suppose credit cards were so easy to have. I have never owned a credit card myself.
Don't.
I just didn't I took offense to the very idea of paying someone to spend my own money. Mind you, this wasn't necessarily a boon, because even if I was well-funded, credit ratings are tied to everything. And if you don't have a credit card that you're regularly paying off, often they try to punish you there.
Wait a sec. Reaper, I think you got that backwards. See, if all of your friends borrow money from you, then yes, they're indentured servants. But if you give money to them, they're not your servants. Unless you specifically pay them for that task, in which case they're your contractor.
And funnily enough, even if you have lent them money, they're not indentured servants if they don't follow a single order you give. They're just people who have taken money from you and may or may not intend to give it back someday.
Yeah. They owe me money. Money? Are you talking money? Like Suit Yourselves money? That girl with the... Never mind. We'll assume that says money. Oh, it's been another great show. I think I'd like without the timer because it allows the conversation to go a little longer and I have to write a question or two less. So, yay!
Yes. I actually think if you were to have timer, it would probably be best if it were visual and not audio. What jarred
It's
me
still
most
there.
about
The countdown is still there. I just took the sound effect out.
Okay, well then never mind. You've done it perfectly.
Yes, I'm slowly make changes to my show where I see the need, and if anybody sees something that I miss, let me know, and I'll I'll see what I can do. I tried to make it my show, obviously, which is why there's got to be a little flame and fire and whatnot, because I'm a skeleton with fire burning behind my head.
Yes. Hopefully we can be discussing this next Saturday.
Yeah. Oh, yes, a reschedule for your stream is going to be this next Saturday?
That's the hope.
Okay.
I'm still waiting on the full report on the state of my equipment.
Oh, you
but
have
I
somebody
should
doing
be up
it
and
for
running. Yes. Yes, I was able to get it out of here for that reason. I should know in advance, but hypothetically, we're good.
All right. All right, that's awesome. Now, as always,
I'll keep you updated.
as always, or as I like to try and do, I should say, you are linked in the description. Anybody who hasn't already, please check out Director Arketer's channel. He's my guest today. Why is he not up? Why? What did I do? Director Arketer disappeared from my screen, or did he not show back up? No,
I never saw I never saw my severed head there to begin with. I just
why did it not pop up? It was there the whole time. I was staring at it the whole time and it wasn't there. I'm not watching the watch screen. I'm sorry.
It's all right. It's all right. On that note,
it is time to go.
Yes. When you check out my channel, please do look also for the Director Arketer live links, usually in the description. That's where you'll see the live streams come up.
That might be the one I linked in there. I just did a quick
YouTube that's search. The edited content channel. I just checked it.
I'm subscribed to both your channels, so I just looked for the first Director Arketer, grabbed your link, and threw it in there. But I might come back and throw the other one in too.
Hope they'll find it on their own in case.
All right.
Thank you again for having me on. It has been a blast.
Oh, I appreciate you coming. It's always good to have a conversation with somebody and not myself.
It can be tiresome to speak with yourself. I know what that's like.
Absolutely.
All too well.
And
you already know what that person is going to say.
Yeah.
It's tedious.
It is. I go blank a lot too. Sometimes that helps with talking to myself. If I start a conversation, go blank, and then answer what I started saying, to forgetting what I was going to say.
I think I might have been there before.
Yeah, it happens to the
I didn't fully follow it.
All right. Thank you for popping in. Anything from the chat? Unwanted Reaper's going to check you out. And I think that's all for today. Thanks, everybody, for popping in and hanging out with us. Please make sure you click... I can type it, but I can't say it. Please make sure you lick that thumb button. Trying to say something different than everybody else. And if you're not already, hit that subscribe button. And make sure you hit that bell icon to get notified when I go live tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. Oh, and I should have Viper Sword on tomorrow. I have to confirm, but I'll have Viper Sword. That'll be fun. Her first appearance. So, until next time, guys, thanks for joining me. Let's get some outro music on the way here.